Hello again there folks, so I thought I'd lighten things up a bit. Things have been a bit gloomy recently and I thought I'd dust off me old series, The Archetypes of the Left, and take a look at a third archetype of the left. We've done the Abomination and we've done the Hatchling, and today I'd like to have a look at a one which I'm sure everybody recognises straight away, the Skintellectual, which was a term coined by an old pal of mine at my blog, Tony Hears. And the Skintellectual describes, as they would say it, POCs, people of colour, who make a career basically dominating the mainstream media and appearing as experts on absolutely everything for no other reason than that they're not white, and they talk a lot about white privilege and whiteness theory and all of this other social justice mumbo jumbo. These are what the centrists scream out about as being playing identity politics, and others would say that they crashed the Labour Party into a cliff. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I don't watch television anymore, but I see these clips going around on Twitter and stuff. But for the normies out there, the white British masses, it seems like every time they turn on the TV, they've got these people like basically shitting in their face, and they're running down the history, they're running down everything about them. Afua Hirsch famously wanted to pull down Nelson's column, and who knows, maybe one day they will. But what's amazing is that they play the victim while at the same time being catapulted and bounced from TV studio to TV studio, and there's it seems to be more and more of them popping up, to the point where there's one sort of locked onto every panel show, every discussion, and even now more and more like heavy duty documentaries, and they've got no qualifications for this whatsoever. The only qualifications they have, the only qualifications they need in the British media today is that they are left-wing social justice activists and they're not white. And this qualifies them to make a commentary on absolutely everything. I mean, you may say like a little country file segment about farmers in Scotland who are struggling with their sheep having some rare disease, and you'll find that someone like Kahindi Andrews or Afua Hirsch or Ash Sakar will be wheeled out into the studio to tell Jock McTavish how he should check his white privilege before he actually starts removing the disease from his sheep. Everything you can imagine, they're experts on. Experts on the royal family, experts on World War II, Ash Sakar, expert on National Socialism, and it just goes on and on and on. But what I think's funny is the career path is so easy for them. They pretend to be victims while at the same time the door is constantly left open. It generally goes where they'll have a book to share. They'll go to university and they'll study critical whiteness theory or whatever, and then they'll end up doing a book which is sponsored by the university. I hate white British history, or the privilege of whites and all, critical British theory and all the rest of this shite. And then they'll find themselves with a bit of a Twitter following, and then before you know it, they're sitting on Question Time and Good Morning Britain for no other reason. The door is constantly held open for them. But what I think's interesting is that they're not actually. I mean, it's so obviously transparent that they're not really ideological lefties in the way that whites are. And you can see, your typical sort of, in America, the Bernie Sanders types, or in Britain, the people who are looking at Marxist critiques and economics and things like that. The Skintellectuals, despite their name, they don't give a shit about any of that. They really don't care. And in a way, it's what neoliberalism has shoehorned their politics into the discourse, because it's much more comfortable with that than serious, sort of socialist critiques, which you do find from time to time in the old left, which by and large they've the George Galloway style left, which can get a little bit too uncomfortable for them. So they've all been purged, And in their place, you have Maya Goodfella and Kehinde Andrews and Akala. And now they can pretend to be these plastic revolutionaries. They can pretend to be this edgy vanguard, which is going to break down the white power system, which of course is exactly the same agenda as what the neoliberalist sort of multinational elites want. They want to have that guilt trip laid on white people because it eases the resistance to the mass portation of people across borders. But nevertheless, they will pretend that they are this edgy vanguard doing God's work for the greater equality of the masses. They don't get it. They don't get it all. But what I think's interesting is how the left are going to deal with the skintellectuals because they are so the white sort of masses are so deeply alienated by these grifters, by this big grift operation, that politically the left are knackered. The Labour Party was a perfect example of it. So in a way, like, you can kind of sit there and they boil your piss, because I mean they pretend to be nice people, but they show no empathy whatsoever for white people. If you think of the so-called grooming issue, they don't give a shit about any of that. What they care about is book sales and their own career path, and getting a few extra benefits towards their own people of colour, just for the sake of it, because I don't actually think they're really even that ethnocentric. They're just a sort of gaggle of grifters, which is promoted by the system. But I think they're a liability. If I was, especially because the white leftist in the hierarchy, in the progressive stack, always has to bend the knee to these people just because they're white, so they can never be called out. But in the meantime, they are largely responsible in the public eyes for crippling the left, for making the left deeply unpopular. So yeah, while it does boil your piss to see them running you down all of the time, it's actually more of a problem that the wider left has to deal with. It's more of a discourse which we can sit back and watch play out over there in their own camp, in their own legion, which is quite fun. But as an archetype, it's one of the most irritating of them all. So I think I'll just leave it there for the archetype of the skintellectuals. I'll catch you later.